What does watering the lawn have to do with not having an affair? I'll get into that. Hey, I'm Andrea. Welcome to Women Power Wednesday. This is a show on the Marriage by Design podcast that's for women. We get into what the Bible has to say about women and to women and how we can apply the Bible to our lives. So today we're talking about, or this month we're going to be talking about faithfulness to our marriages and when things don't go well and when somebody's been unfaithful. And so today we're talking about how to remain faithful, how to stay faithful in our marriages. So a pretty heavy topic, and it's a short time that I'm going to be talking. So I could talk about this topic for way longer than just the few minutes that I have, but I'm just hoping to hit on some big points for you. And if there's questions that you have or additional resources that you're looking for or some more help, definitely contact us and I'd be happy to give you some additional information. But today we're talking about how to not have an affair. And that seems super easy because it's rare that somebody just wakes up and purposes, well, today I'm going to be unfaithful to my vows. But it happens so often that people are unfaithful. So how does that happen? Well, I'm going to give you some ways to try to remain faithful in quite honestly, a very faithless world. But one is, don't think I could never do that. I could never have an affair. I could never be unfaithful to my spouse. I think that the devil is so good at getting us where we're prideful. And so if we have this kind of prideful spirit of, I could never do that, then our defenses are down about it. So just be careful to say, I would never, because we're all capable of the worst things, because we all have a sinful nature. We're all sinners. So be careful in what you're prideful in. Then the second thing that I would say is work on your marriage. Water your own lawn. So that saying of the grass is always greener on the other side. Well, yeah, the grass is greener on the other side because your neighbor's watering it and you're not. So water your own lawn. Work on your marriage. Do the hard work of working on your marriage. Work on it when it's good, when you're in good times, and when you're struggling, and really sow into each other. And if you're struggling, don't give up in those struggles. Keep going until you find resolution, or until you get to a place that's better than where you're at. Don't give up. In fact, this whole thing, it's been behind us this whole time, but you probably don't see it. It says, never give up. Never give up. There's always hope. Don't give up. So don't give up working on your own marriage. Water your own lawn. Then talk with your spouse about something that we call fidelity fences. So our some mentors of ours, Ty and Terry Schenzel, talked about fidelity fences, and they had several that they had set up in their marriage. And I think it's so important for every marriage to have their own fidelity fences. And some of those could look like, we're never going to have a lunch or dinner or meal out with somebody of the opposite sex by ourselves. So I'm never going to go to lunch with a guy who's not family and not my husband by myself, or never being in the car with somebody who's not family and of the opposite sex by myself. Another one could be texting. Never texting somebody of the opposite sex without another person being on there. In fact, almost all the time, sometimes we flub up on this, but almost all the time, if I need to text somebody of the opposite sex who's, again, not family and not my husband, I include my husband in on it. And it's probably has nothing to do with him, but he gets it. He knows why he's being included. And it's just a fidelity fence thing. It's not that I feel like, oh my gosh, I have to text this guy and I'm afraid I'm going to fall into an affair with him. That's not it. I'm just being respectful to maybe that guy's wife if he's married, but I'm being respectful to my husband and my marriage, to just be absolutely sure that this is not a way that I could fall into conversation with him that's inappropriate. So a really good tip is to talk about things that you and your spouse feel would help you to be above reproach and have those fidelity fences. So the next thing is, don't make small compromises. I talked earlier about it's rare that somebody would wake up in the morning and say, well, today I'm going to have an affair. Gosh darn it. It happens over time. It happens because of the small compromises that we make. It happens when you see somebody that you think is attractive, and rather than giving that over to the Lord and shutting it down right there, you think on that more, and oh gosh, this guy's really attractive, and then I start imagining what would life be like with him if I were married to him instead of my own husband, and having some of those, just playing with that idea. And then I find ways to be with him without anybody around, and then we start talking about my marriage problems, and he's so, oh my gosh, this guy is so understanding and he really gets me, and now I'm starting to feel really emotionally connected to him, and he cares about what I'm saying, and in fact he's having problems in his marriage, and I'm so glad I'm there for him. You see how this goes? And now we're emotionally invested, and then we spend more time together, and it can because of those small compromises, quickly go to a bad place. Or maybe that situation would never lead into an affair, a physical affair, but you're having an emotional affair or an emotional connection with somebody who's not your husband. That's wildly inappropriate. And so the small compromises that you make over time are what lead to those big problems, or what can lead to an affair. So just being super careful to not make those small compromises. Stay within your boundaries. Stay within those fidelity fences. Don't try to push the line of your boundaries. Boundaries are a good thing. And then another thing and actually I'll talk about with small compromises about some temptation. So 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, no temptation has overtaken you but such that is common to man, and God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. So it says a lot there in that verse. First, no temptation has overtaken you but that which is common to man. The temptation that you may feel for whatever that small compromise is normal to feel that. And it's not wrong to be tempted, but it's wrong to give into it. That temptation is normal. So if you reach out to somebody else to have some accountability or some help or prayer or whatever, that person probably is going to say, yeah, I've been tempted that way too. Don't let the devil isolate you into thinking you're the only one, you can't say anything. So it says, no temptation that has overtaken you, but that is common to man. And God is faithful. He's so faithful. He won't allow you to be tempted beyond that which you can bear. There's no temptation that will come to you that you can't get out of, because God's power is greater than your temptation, and he will give you a way of escape always. Look to the Lord for the escape, and you'll find it. You don't have to fall into it. It's not the hole that you're required to go into. There's a way to get out. Ask the Lord, seek the Lord for that. So then my last point of how to not have an affair is have a heart of gratitude. When we choose to be grateful, even for the things that we're not completely grateful for, when we choose to find ways to be thankful and grateful and give those over to the Lord, it changes our lives, and it changes our hearts, and it changes our perspective. So even if you're in a marriage where you're struggling, you can maybe see how you could, divert out of that marriage, or you're tempted to seek someone else. Find things to be grateful for. And I promise you, even in the worst marriage, there's stuff that you can be grateful for. Even hey, thanks God that we've hung on this long. Just find ways to be grateful, have an attitude of gratefulness, and continue in that way, and it just changes. It changes your perspective. It changes your thoughts. God calls us to think on that which is true, that which is lovely, and He's faithful to really help us with our heart attitude in that. And then the last thing I'm going to say is I've been reading this book, Intimate Issues by Linda Dillow and Lorraine Pintus, and it's a really great book, but it talks in here a little bit about faithfulness. And it says, faithfulness to our vows is more than the absence of an affair or the absence of a divorce document. Faithfulness is the presence of love, devotion, honor, loyalty, and encouragement. Faithfulness is positive and dynamic. It means we actively seek the welfare of our spouse. To say, I've been faithful because I've never committed adultery, is to miss entirely God's meaning of faithfulness. So just an encouragement there that to really think about what your faithfulness looks like. Are you devoted? Are you loving to your spouse? Because that's true faithfulness. Just because you haven't had an affair doesn't mean that you're being faithful in the way that God's called you to your marriage. So water your own lawn, be grateful, set up those fidelity fences, don't make the small compromises, and those are just some ways that you can hopefully not fall into the arms of another. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for joining us on Marriage by Design. If you were impacted by this video, like it by hitting the thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and once you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes release.
Excellent. Also, one of the huge pillars of our show is interactivity between us and you. So we would love you to comment down in the comments below if you have thoughts about this video, or if you have questions or other things you'd like to see considered in the future. In addition, if you'd like, you can email us. That's marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram @marriagebydesignpodcast, or you can find us on Facebook by searching Marriage by Design Podcast. Finally, if you want to, you can tweet at us. We do have a Twitter account that is @MarriageXDesign. Thanks, and have a great day.